Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. We have a really interesting comic book and other mediums property to talk about today. My pleasure to welcome Nicole Maines back to the show, who's been on several times before. And for the first time, Adam Huss, who actor, creator, writer. So, Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Happy to be here.
And Nicole, welcome back.
Thank you again for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm really glad Nicole brought this up to me, this project that she's working on with Adam at San Diego, so we could do this kind of follow-up and kind of spread the word about Truth Man, because not a ton of info out there, but I've done a little bit of reading on it, and it's so interesting and I think so worthwhile. So, Adam, this is kind of your baby, and you brought Nicole onto it, so why don't you give the quick pitch and let people know what Truth Man is about, and then we'll get into some of the challenges that it's faced.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for that intro. And yeah, Truth Man, it stemmed from an idea for a feature film called Original True that is just a coming-of-age movie. It's classic tale inspired by John Hughes films of the outcast kid who creates a way to fight back against the system, right? And his way was to create this underground comic book called Truth Man. And the comic goes viral in the movie, and then all of a sudden it changes the hierarchy of the school, and the outcasts and the nerds and the gay kids are on top, and the bullies are on blast on the bottom. He gets everything he wants, and then he has to sort of recuperate back and like retcon his life to win everyone back into his life. And the comic stemmed from that, and it became this thing where everyone was like, make this comic now because it is so relevant for what's going on in the world, where the ugliness of people's, hate and bias on the inside has grown so overwhelmingly terrible that it has taken over their outside, and they have become the true monsters that they're hiding on the inside. And the world has fallen into an apocalyptic landscape. And the only one who rises up and says, I need to do something about this, is, as he's watching all this and warn people this was going to happen, is our hero, our reluctant hero, Truth Man.
Emphasis on reluctant, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's part of it, right? And maybe some of us have experienced this in our lives, be careful what you wish for. Because if you're not careful, you get the success that you want, which is great, and the attention, that comes with that, and it's rewarding and gratifying. But it's also really easy to lose sight of where you came from. You went from being on the bottom to being on the top, and all of a sudden, before you realize it, you're treating those people that are now on the bottom the way that you were treated. And
Yeah.
Obviously that's not great. We want to be empathetic no matter what level of success that we have. And,
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, Adam. No more relevant time than now. It's interesting, these John Hughes films, which have told this kind of rags to riches story, if you will, in terms of popularity. That was back in the 80s. Here we are, 20, 30 years later, fighting the same fight, if not worse, a lack of empathy, a lack of connection, and what have you. So I think it's important to start the conversations and keep it kind of in the zeitgeist. Was that a little bit of the inspiration behind wanting to tell this story for you?
Oh yeah, I mean you're nailing it on the head. That's exactly. And Nicole and I were talking about this earlier. Like we are very different in age, but the themes don't change. The themes are still there. And yeah, like that inspired me so much when Molly Ringwald in Pretty in Pink says she's gonna go to the prom because the dad, like Harry Dean Stanton, the great Harry Dean, he can't believe, why is she gonna go to the prom when she hates these people or they hate her? And she's like, I want them to know they didn't break me. And so that really was the inspiration for the movie. It was the impetus for the film. And this comic is similar. It's like Truth Man wants to give, this guy who becomes Truth Man wants to give people hope and say there's a reason that you got to show these people that they didn't break you. You got to stand up and say, But mixed with, again, that voice of what's going on now is like, how do I do it? I kind of feel hopeless. I'm doing this thing and it's not working. Shit's still terrible and it's getting worse every day. And so those are the challenges we're really going to see Truth Man face. And I feel like Nicole brings such a fresh voice for that in her generation, who's feeling a lot of that right now.
Yeah. Well, I think sort of like what we were talking about earlier, I think there's a huge feeling amongst particularly young people coming into adulthood, young adults, are feeling this sensation of like, oh, cool, work. I've inherited kind of a crumbling, collapsing society. Empathy is not worth its weight in gold. And it feels like I am so completely trapped on a runaway train. And I'm doing everything I can to try to care, but there's so much coming apart, and it's all coming apart so quickly. How do I fix it? Can I fix it? And so Truthman for me has become part of my outlet to explore those feelings and explore like, okay, how do you restore your own faith in the world and come back to feeling that the world is worth fighting for?
Yeah, it's an important lesson, and I will say, people of your generation, Nicole, and even younger, are giving people of my generation this. So we're, Gen X, we're sort of considered the lost generation in a lot of ways. The generation before us, the boomers, are the ones that still are clinging on to power. But I think the younger generation, they give me hope because they are so aware, and they're starting to come into their own power. But I'm curious. I'm sure a lot of people are kind of wondering, Nicole, how do you actually know Adam? And no brainer for me that you would get involved in this project when he introduced you to it. But give us a little behind the scenes of how you know Adam and what your reaction was when you heard about this project and he invited you to join.
Yeah, so I ran into Adam and his partner Adam at the Queer Teas. So I know Adam through he has a company called Small Town Weirdo, Adam Bucci, yes, who does all like queer horror. I'm a huge like Billy Loomis and Matthew Lillard truther. And so we had become friends through that. And so I ran into them at the Queer Teas, and Adam was telling me about this film script that he had written and wanted to turn into a comic, and had said that he had been reading Secret Six and really, really liking it. So I was like, oh, compliments, please, more. What? And so we set up a meeting after the Queer Teas, and he gave me his whole pitch. And then we sat down at Aroma Cafe and did an outline for an 8-page mini comic to kind of introduce this character and this world and our stakes. And it has quickly become, like I said, an outlet for me to get to explore a lot of the questions and feelings that have been coming up in my own life.
Yeah, so it's available on Patreon, everybody, and I'll put a link in the show notes so you can go and check it out for yourself. And mentioned that possibly it's going to show up in another medium, and that's how it kind of originally started. And I would not wish ill on anyone, Adam, whatsoever. And I know it's had its challenges, partly due to COVID and writer strikes and that sort of stuff. But in a way, I'm like, you have taken it and said, okay, let's take the lemons and make lemonade, if you will. There's a silver lining. And I sort of feel like maybe this is a little bit serendipitous to have it come out the way that it is, so that when it does, come out as a feature film, that it'll have a bigger audience, and you'll have any growth or things that need to be learned, lessons learned, or anything, any changes you might want to make. You can flesh it out first, in this other medium, and so the final product will end up being even better when it does, come to the small screen or the big screen or what have you. So, but it has to have been challenging. So, give us a little background, and what are your thoughts on it? I mean, you kind of agree with me, or are you still mourning that it kind of started and then stopped and that sort of thing?
And I'm sorry about the timing of the dump truck that's coming through right now.
We can't hear a thing.
Yeah, can't.
Okay, good.
We're good.
Garbage truck. I can. But so I will say that, listen, I'm a big believer, or at least I work on believing in the time, the power of timing and trusting in timing. And, something, the universe has your back and things happen for a reason. I really try to hold on to that belief. When it comes to filmmaking, challenges, especially the last couple of years, have been, there have been plenty for independent filmmakers. And so for this movie, we were really close, like you said, to making it. We got the tax incentive, the California tax incentive, which is really hard to get. Now it's bigger, but it was like very small a couple of years ago. And we had a big investor, and it just all that didn't work. And when we let go of that idea of that, and then it became like about this going back to grassroots to make the film, and then hearing, make the IP, go make the comic. And at first I really was like, sure, okay, I'll go make the comic with no resources whatsoever. Great, no budget, awesome, great, I'll go do that, And I was a little
Here, let me just pull this thing out of thin air.
Yeah.
Oh, work, easy, simple.
Exactly. But I do not back down from a challenge, and I'm like, fine. Then it became like that grief process, and by the end I was like, fine. Now I'm in that stage of like, I'm angry. I'm gonna go make this thing, and that's truly when I found these gems, like Nicole wanting to come on, Chris Abels, our artist. Like, I really say this not just because she's here, but it was like I still pinch myself that I have found these two people that wanted to collaborate in this way, where it's again grassroots effort. We're starting with nothing, but building something with promises made, of course. And they're just putting their best foot forward. And I'm getting this amazing story and amazing art from these two pros, And so again, I gushed on Secret Six because I was like, this is unbelievable that she's putting all these people together. She's creating their costumes. They look amazing. The storyline is so compelling. And now I have her writing Truth Man. So again, this fresh voice that's in, like, I wrote the comics in the movie, but this voice now to collaborating together, it's bringing such a fresh, teens are not going to go see this movie when it comes to it and if it's my voice only. I'm Gen X, so we need this voice. And you're right, it was a gift in that way, because now I'm like, this is the voice that was needed. This is the special sauce that was missing.
Yeah, and I want to get
my own unique brand of nihilism and pessimism.
Well, I want to get your perspective on finding that voice and coming in and collaborating on someone else's idea, Nicole. But one thing I want to point out before we do that, like so many times people, this is a time, tale as old as time, at least for the last couple decades. I wanted to make a movie, but I couldn't get anybody to invest in it, so I'm going to turn it into a comic. I want to be clear that when people do that and they don't have any experience, it doesn't always turn out to be the best project. These two creators are so passionate, and if the movie happens, the movie happens. But knowing what I know of Nicole and what little I know of Adam from chatting, setting this up or what have you, this is about making the best comic they can and making a fantastic story. And if it does eventually become a movie like originally planned, then hey, that's great. But these two are so passionate about making a good comic and building a community and continuing this conversation of empathy and understanding and connection. So I want to make that clear. This isn't one of those things where we couldn't make the movie, we're going to make the comic, and it's just as proof of concept. That's not what this is. This is making the best comic and the best story and having this meaningful conversation. That's what's important to them right now. So I want to make that clear.
Thank you for saying that. Oh, thank you for saying that, because just real fast, I'll say this. It really is not the storyline of the movie. The movie is live action, whole different thing. So exactly, this storyline is fresh, new, and like Nicole and I've discussed, it's definitely going to go away from what's in the movie too. It's its own thing.
Yeah, 100%. But Nicole, you've done a fantastic job. I always give you a bad time, or like to remind you about Mark Waid praising you, at a San Diego panel. You were in tear, makeup running, what have you.
Come on.
But coming into this, Adam tells you the idea, gives you the whole pitch and everything. You feel like it's worthwhile. Hey, it's a great story. But at the same time, it is his idea that you're stepping into. Not completely dissimilar from, working on heroes that are owned by DC, but, this is a little more personal because, it's his idea. Yeah. So challenges, any trepidation, had to think about it a little bit before he jumped in?
I think more the fear for me came from, is this going to be something that he's not willing to change? Is all of this really set in stone? How much agency do I have as the writer coming into this? And I was so quickly, all of that was so dispelled the second we sat down. And Adam is so collaborative and so yes, and yes, great. And then we could also do this. And then what if we do this? And it's been so rapid pace, the way that this world in the comic has expanded. And I was joking earlier, we were on Instagram Live, and I'm like, I got the kind of mental illness that I just do world building. And that's been really, really fun. I'm such a sucker for anything post-apocalyptic and And I feel like the core of this story was had such the potential to be so poignant and speak to all of the things that I know I and so many other young people are feeling right now, especially young queer people. And I was just like, yes, please, I really want to explore this world and in this story and see what we can do. And honestly, having already a foundation and already a story of what Adam had in mind and of this character and of these stakes in the setting was more helpful than anything. It's harder, I think, trying to create something from nothing. And it's better for me to have some kind of a launch pad to build off of. Because otherwise, like, here's a blank sheet of paper. Please do something.
So intimidating.
My options are unlimited and I have no direction. So having Adam kind of be able to direct me and focus me is endlessly helpful, because so often I feel like I'm like digging at creative bedrock and I'm like, I've been out of ideas for 5 years and no one's noticed. And so it's been very, very helpful, honestly, to have his pitch and his ideas to help kind of set up so I don't go in the gutters as it is.
Well, from your perspective, Adam, you obviously you've had this idea for a long time, and you have the characters' voices in your head. Once you get an artist that comes in and does character design, and you start seeing that art come back, and you'll start seeing that your story fully realized. But also on the other side, narratively, you're helping with the plot. Obviously, Nicole's handling the scripting. She's bringing her own voice. But with the idea of the voices in your head for these characters, and now Nicole's actually putting script to that, putting words and dialogue to that. Has that crystallized the voices of these characters for you? And has there been any change in the way you have perceived those characters? Like, I kind of thought they were this, but now they're even more real, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying, and yes, for sure. Because again, like I wrote the screenplay first, right? So the comic I love comics and I read them. I've read them my whole life, and I read them, every week avidly. But like, it was, just to create a comic is a whole different thing. Yeah. And that was why I had no idea, that Nicole was a comic book writer. And then when I found Secret Six and I was reading it, I was just like, this is unbelievable, because I love that it's just like, it's not just that clunky, like, here's an old school, this is a fresh, exciting voice that these characters need as a teenager writing an underground, independent, no holds barred comic that's railing against the system. Again, my voice is a little different than this Gen Z kid, so all of a sudden I'm getting this beautiful nuanced layer of like, oh, I love this idea of, not just someone who's hopeful, but also that cynicism, the nihilism of like, what do I do with this? Now I made this move because I had to do it because y'all didn't do anything. And now what do I do? Because I'm showing you this potential that you could have to fight back and you're not doing anything. That was really cool for me. I saw him as a Ash from Evil Dead, and I saw him as a Snake Plissken. That was a voice, but that can almost become caricature too at this point, And so to have like this other fresh voice coming from him, it's a beautiful evolution, I think.
Yeah, I can't wait to check it out and read it, because I agree 100%. Adam, you and I are of a similar age, same generation. And so I hope you are hopeful as I am that the younger generation is going to be the one that kind of saves us, as it were. But yes. I mean, again, the passion, and one of the things that I often say, and this speaks to the passion and how important I think it is that you can really tell what a society values by looking at the stories that they create, the fictions that they create. What do they value? What are they exploring in the stories that they're telling? So this, again, to go back to the idea of this being so relevant and needed right now, is so important. So I really ascribe to that theory. So for you, Adam, when you brought Nicole on and she's coming in with those ideas, it doesn't sound like you were precious at all with adding in her stuff. But it must have just been exciting. Okay, now we're that much closer, one more step, and this is going to be greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. And, hey, control, that's a big thing for me. Been letting go of control for many years now, working on that. So it's like, I know better than that my myopic view is the best view, you know? But yeah, of course you have your darlings and you're holding on to them and you're like, wait, but Nicole, we got to do this. She's like, okay, we'll do it. And then we'll do this over here. And then I'll pivot here. And maybe this character becomes more important later because I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? I can let go of this idea of what's in the movie comic, because again, that's a different device in the movie. It serves a different plot point. Now this comic is its own world. We get to expand and explore and get people loving all the beauty that this world is and Truth Man is. So we get to explore this whole
beauty
new world. Yeah, beauty without parameters.
It's all just dilapidated buildings and
right. But you love that.
I do.
Well, it is a brand new world that you two are creating along with your artist Chris Abel. So that is a little bit different for you, Nicole. You've done your previous comic work in the DC universe, where those characters are the IP is owned by a big company, which is in turn owned by an even bigger company, more eyes on it. A little more creative freedom here. Has the process been different, where you don't have to check in with anybody per se, so you feel a little more unfettered?
I mean, in some regards, yes. In some regards, not really. I've been very fortunate with the stuff that I've done at DC. That I felt like I've had a lot of leniency to tell the stories that I want to tell. I think more with this one, I find I'll probably be able to be a little bit more politically scathing, which is fun, and point fingers more, which will be cathartic for me personally. But I mean, yeah, I think the biggest change is just getting to create all new characters. In a whole new world that none of it's pre-established, as far as the reader is concerned. And that has been very different, and that has been very, very fun. I've gotten to do a little bit of it with DC, with kind of expanding like Naltorian lore and stuff like that, which has been fun, but this is just on a whole nother scale. And it's been a very, very meaty challenge, and I really like it.
And one thing that we discussed when I first met her and talked about the comic was she's like, oh, don't you love John Kent's look in this? And I was like, yes, because the costumes that they wear in Secret Six are so different, and Jay Nakamura too. And I thought, and she's like, I had a hand in like saying some of that. And I was like, whoa, now I'm really like excited because I want you to have a hand in this and like what some of these characters are going to look like down the road, who are going to meet from the movie that are in the comic. And Chris was so open to that. And even the monster design, we were on a Zoom and he's like, we're all talking about what is the monster.
Like as we're talking, he's like I've never seen someone draw that fast.
Sketching it. Yeah.
And like fast and well.
Right. It's like that baseball monster kind of became that evolution right there in front of our eyes.
Cool.
And I want to say this, a lot of the monsters you're going to see, because it was a coming of age movie, they start from these cliques in high school and they've become very like body horror to things, substance kind of thing, from what they were in high school. A baseball player with his pitching arm. Chris says like, he was chewing dip. So his face became all toxic and bubbly. So we start there, and then the monsters will grow out into society to show that, that it's kind of mirrors life. High school mirrors
evil in all its forms.
Yeah, toxicity. Toxicity spreading toxicity. 100%. Yeah. How did you find Chris to bring him onto the project, Adam? Is he someone you knew already?
No, he wasn't. We have this friend, Jessica Babila, and she's a huge horror PR. Like she does PR for films, and she helped my husband Adam Bucci with his connections in the small town weirdo world, do like campaigns with Universal and Sony, and right now he's doing The Strangers with Lionsgate. So thanks to her, she just seems to know everybody. And she was like, I put a post up or something, and she was like, I have the guy for you. And I looked at his stuff and I was just like, yeah, not gonna be able to afford him. No way.
Real.
And then like just reached out, told the story. He read some stuff and he was like, I want to do this. I'm in. And we all met him and we thought he was the guy for the job. He did a bunch of sketches of Truth Man. We gave him notes. He kept changing it so fast and easily.
Oh, good. He got the face down just perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And then he just got a job for Disney, and we thought, oh, we're going to lose him. And he was like, no, I'm just going to tell you this because I mentioned it on the thing, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm so committed to this. And I was like, I love you. So, yeah, that's how we got him.
That's awesome. Again, I think it speaks to the passion that you all have for the story that comes through, and just talking to you about it. But also,
if Disney hires me, I'm leaving.
No.
Well, but the other thing is like the value in this story, right? Like I think you all know that this is a story and the themes and what have you that we're talking about. Again, it's so important to have this conversation, to have these kind of stories and these kind of properties out there to have. It just makes it that much easier to start the conversation. Mm-hmm. Somebody reads this, you can share it. If you have younger kids, especially kids that feel marginalized. I know that's a big thing that you like to champion, Nicole. So they can feel seen, they can feel heard, and these types of stories can be a gateway to start that conversation. Sometimes those conversations are tough you just don't know where to start.
And that's what comic books have always been. It's always been the vehicle that we use to talk about social issues, global issues, personal issues, just things that matter to us. And I think comic books and superheroes make it easy, make it accessible. I think it gets past people's walls and guards. And that's what's great.
Yeah. And it makes, and like you said, the accessible word is really important to me in my filmmaking and in this storytelling here. It's like, this isn't just an LGBTQ story. It isn't just, this one thing. It is a universal story that we've been watching for the longest time, and fans of those things, whether it be in movies or TV, because we root for the underdog and the outcast person fighting against the system to rise above and say, no, this is wrong. Don't you see it? Wake up, people. That's just something we all root for. That's not wokeness. That's wonderful. Like, to me, classic storytelling. And that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's relatability. I don't know anybody who hasn't at some point in their lives felt like an outsider. Unfortunately, some people spend their entire lives feeling like an outsider, like they've never found their group where they feel like, like they belong. So again, I think it's relatability, and it's the importance of having the conversation, having these stories out there so that you can find connection, you can bring people together through the story. So again, everybody, it's available on Patreon. There's a link in the show notes. I'm going to throw it back over to each of you. Any last thoughts, and also share with everybody in our audience where they can follow your work online if you have a social media presence. We'll start with you, Adam.
Okay. I will just say that we're so, we're a grassroots effort, but we really believe in this. And I'm so grateful to have amazing collaborators like Nicole and Chris. And another reason Chris came on is because I had Nicole's voice in this. So I'm really grateful for where this story is starting from and where it's going to go. We've broken a bunch of sort of 12 issue arcs, and you will not be disappointed. So please follow me on @AdamTHuss, or Instagram. Please go to @TruthmanComic, and then our Patreon, which again, you'll have the link in your story. So thank you for that, Jace.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to the social media for Adam and Truthman as well. How about you, Nicole?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and Blue Sky @Nicole A. Maines. And I would just say that things feel so bleak and so dire and so terrible right now. And they are. And I think so many of us have such a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness and anger. And I hope that this story makes people feel valid and seen in those feelings.
Yeah, if we're going to all get through this, it's going to be through like-minded people that do still have empathy and passion and compassion for each other. We're going to come together, and we're going to be the ones that gets, again, that's why it gives me so much hope, younger generation. My daughter, who's 13, she's got so much compassion and empathy. And it's her generation and the ones, a little older than that, they're going to be the reason that we get through this. And I have a perfect example. I've told this story on the podcast before, but Nicole and Adam will be hearing it for the first time. You know, we live in Phoenix. It gets really hot here, as people know. So many times we'll be driving the freeway off ramp, and there's the unhoused that are there, and we don't always like to just give them money. So we'd oftentimes go to whatever closest fast food and bring them food and what have you. And my daughter had the idea, and this was when she was like 8 or 9. Hey, we should carry like a care package in the car. So we started building these care packages with water and tuna fish and crackers and socks and toothpaste and toothbrush and comb, some hygiene products, whatever. And we to this day continue this, where we carry these kind of care packages around our car, and when we see somebody, we just hand them. And that kind of thing is the thing that gives me hope. We didn't tell her; she came up with the idea all on her own. But things
kids
like that.
Kids are good.
Exactly.
It is when we're taught evil that the problem happens.
100%. Yep. That's 100% right.
And a project like this is so worthwhile. So thank you both for doing it, because again, it can help teach the kids, early. This is the lessons they need to learn, and it can help start the conversations about all the things that we talked about today. So again, you two, best of luck with the project. Thanks so much for sharing it with us today.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
And remember, everybody, links in the show notes for Adam and Nicole's social media, as well as the Truth Man Instagram and the Patreon as well. So, take a few minutes, go check it out. And the other thing that I will say, we'll leave you with this: share it with your friends as well, and especially younger readers. Put it out on your social media. Let's make sure that there's so much value to it. Let's make sure that we get it in the eyes of all the people that can experience it, because the only way we're going to get through these tough times is together. And a project like this can really bring people together. So let's all make an effort.
Thank you, Jace. Amazing.
My pleasure. And on behalf of Nicole and Adam, everybody out there who's joining us, whether you're listening audio only or on the YouTube, we really appreciate it. And we will talk to you next time.